I'm John Townley, your host today, and to mull over Aston Villa's 2-1 defeat against Manchester City, I'm joined by Matt Kendrick and Patrick Rowe. Gents, how are we?
Yeah, good, thanks. Little bit crestfallen. I thought we'd just about done enough to claw something back, but yeah, relatively encouraged, I think.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't remember the last time I was this positive after a loss, to be honest. So yeah, I've come away from it quite happy with it. I thought Konza might have had that penalty. I thought there was Carney with his chance as well. There was plenty of chances for us to get something from the game, but yeah, very positive coming from it.
Yeah, I saw a post on Twitter saying if you're gonna lose any game at Villa Park, you don't mind losing in that fashion. Against Manchester City, there's every chance you're not going to win the game, of course, but to put up a battling display like I thought we did in the second half, I thought that was really encouraging. We're going to go over a range of topics, of course, in the podcast, but we kind of take it right back to team news almost. Jacob Ramsey not on the team, or Ashley Young, which I thought was a bit of a surprise. Matt, Buendia, and Louise coming into the starting 11. What did you make of Gerrard's selection?
He certainly doesn't, he doesn't swerve the big decisions, does he? Really, he's got his own mind, the team that he has for each occasion, and we'll go with it. I thought leaving Ramsey out was an interesting one. He's admitted after the match that Ramsey's still a little, carrying a knock, so he wanted to preserve him and protect him, which, again, I suppose is good management. He's a young kid, and I'm sure he'd be chomping at the bit to play every game, but Gerrard's taken the decision to pull him out the firing line a little bit. In terms of Louise being in the team, I thought it was probably, I don't want to get too carried away with height, but he's got to be up there in the top 2 or 3 performances I've seen from him in a Villa shirt. I thought he was magnificent, to be honest, and I thought he played. I'm not sure I've ever seen him play with as much fire in his belly, to be honest, whether it was a Man City thing because he got a point to prove or whatever it was, whether it was a slight change of position for him. I just thought he set the tone for, the first 20 minutes. I thought we were on for a battering. It seemed so nervous and we didn't seem like we felt we belonged on the same pitch as some of Man City superstars. But when we got back into the game and started to believe, I thought Douglas was the kind of flag bearer for it, really. In terms of the leaving Ashley Young out, I don't know. It's Leon Bailey's starting to. I don't want to write him off. He's only been in the door 6 weeks, and he's clearly, the rigours of the Premier League are clearly playing heavily on his muscles at the moment. But there's so much more that we need from him. But yeah, I suppose we can get to that in a bit.
Pat, what did you think? Buendia obviously starting. I thought Buendia was probably one of his better games again in the first half. I thought it was very difficult to compliment too many of our players because we were very passive. But I thought Buendia came into it, especially in the second half.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see Buendia shine when in the final third, and it's difficult to get the ball in the final third against Man City. But when we did get it there, I thought he was really neat with it. I think he played Carney in, and I said earlier, I think he had one in the first half, slotting Watkins in, and then Bailey's shot got blocked across the face goal. I think it's one of those. Yeah, in games where you're gonna have more possession, I think Buendia is just going to really come into it. He looked fitter last night. He was running a bit more, his work rate was a bit more intense. And yeah, I was pretty impressed with it. In terms of the rest of the selection, I thought it was quite interesting how Louise got selected, to be honest, over Jacob Ramsey, not over Nakamba, whereas last season and in recent seasons, it'd be Nakamba and Louise are competing for the holding midfielder role. And I agree with Matt, to be honest, when I say I thought it was one of his best performances in a Villa shirt. I think he had 5 key passes and then had led the team in shot creating actions as well with 6 and got the assist for Ollie Watkins' goal. And I think the last time he played like that was when he played in the exact same position against Everton. So McGinn went off, didn't he? And then Nakamba came on. So maybe Nakamba being on the pitch with Louise allows Louise to flood into this box to box, more attacking, more freedom role. And you get the attacking aspect of his game that we haven't really seen since he signed for us, to be honest, apart from the first few games when he was scoring those screamers in front of outside the area. Yeah, it's a nice little insight into what Gerrard probably sees him as. He doesn't see him as the holding midfielder. He sees him as a number 8, go box to box, get forward a bit more. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think he'll flourish.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really good balance there because you say you've got a Nakamba who can do the dirty side of the game, should we say, and then you've got a McGinn and a Louise, box to box play, Jacob Ramsey too. Different channels of that midfield position, all flooding the box in some occasions, and then being playing that deeper role as well. But is that almost a sign that we probably need another holding midfielder, because that was one of the main points in the summer transfer window, wasn't it? That we need extra bodies in that position. And I know we've got good options now besides a holding midfielder like Louise McGinn, even Chukwuemeka now, and Jacob Ramsey. So Matt, do you think that that's another priority position now come January, even that holding midfielder to even push Nakamba on again?
I think so. I think we've got options, but have we got the quality options that we need? To perform consistently at the top half of the Premier League, shall we say? I'm interested to see what Morgan Sanson does under Gerrard now. And he came on, and it was it's cliche, but it was like having a new sign. Like, I'm sure I've heard this bloke's name before, but I haven't seen much of him. And I know Pat and you will probably know better than me what his best position is. I thought he's a couple of involvements that he had last night. I think he entered the pitch at a time when Villa believed that we could actually go and get something out of the game. And I thought he looked quite slick. That's a very narrow sample because we've probably seen him play for 10 minutes, 15 minutes and touch the ball half a dozen times. But I think that's another option. And I think, regardless of what went on with him and Smith and why he was kind of persona non grata for several months, we don't know. But that's the benefit of having a new manager, that you get a clean slate. And I think Gerrard wants to make absolutely sure that he's seen what, I don't think he's going to put people on the pitch for the sake of it, but equally, I think he wants to make sure that he's seeing in a training environment and in a match environment what he's got, so that can inform what he and Villa do in January.
Yeah, I agree. And almost in the first half as well, I think a bit of bite from a Sanson or a bit of bite from other players in that midfield position that was needed, wasn't it, Pat? I think we were too passive. We weren't up and at them, and that's probably the game plan, to be fair, to sit deep and try and hit them on the counter. And to be fair, how do you play against Man City? We can't get away from the fact that they're probably going to be in the Champions League final this season, going up for all the major honours under Guardiola in the next few years as well. So to kind of pit our wits against that team, and for Gerrard to pit his wits against Guardiola too, it's that's a massive encouragement. But I just think in the first half maybe we were a bit too lax, and come half time, I think Gerrard probably said to him, that's not us. We need to be more aggressive. We need to get the fans back on side with more bite in the performance, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. The first, the 10 minutes flew by because my heart rate was just through the roof for the entirety of it. Against Brighton, it was a different case. We were out of possession. We didn't have the majority of the ball, but we looked organised. And it was the same against Crystal Palace. I was never that stressed because I just thought, we look solid. Like, we're dealing with everything. But in the first 20 odd minutes in this game, we were just all over the place. Like, players are getting dragged around. It was just like one pass to beat our press, one pass to find a bit of space. They were just getting into the box willy-nilly. And I just didn't know what was going on. And all of a sudden it pans to Steven Gerrard, and he genuinely looked like he was about to rip someone's head off on the sideline.
Yeah,
my dad just started creasing, or at least someone's going to do it to him. So he'll get him in order eventually, and then we settle down. And that's probably what Gerrard brings. Like, it just brings that mentality, doesn't he? Sorts them out.
Yeah.
Pots don't burst. But yeah, I agree with Sanson. He brings a bit of bite. I think his main attribute is his running. He probably won't see the best of that until he regains his full fitness. I think he's quite a while off it at the minute. Probably won't start on Sunday, but maybe a substitute appearance again. But yeah, I agree with Matt again. He looked slick, didn't he? That little Cruyff turn at the end where he sold two players. A bit of magic. Maybe he can bring that. I think he'll be competing with Ramsey, Louise, and like McGinn for the box-to-box role. And then when you look at it, we only have Nakamba that can play that holding role. Obviously, Louise can, but if you're going to move him forward, then you just have Nakamba that's starting at that CDM. So, yeah, I think he'll mould his January transfer window around that. I think we've already been linked to players like it. But in terms, again, how you play against City, I think like in the second half, we showed how you play against them. I feel like we came out with a bit more bite, a bit more. We were closing them down a bit more, getting into them, forcing errors, countering, attacking. And yeah, forced errors, like, had chances, and I thought we could have got something from the game, to be honest. But it's one of those. It is City at the end of the day. I think Palace, were the only other team beating them this season, and Spurs, and what they did, they set back and just pressed effectively, and maybe it's a bit early for Gerrard to do that yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the second half, we were almost ruining our first half in many ways. Well, we met, I think, to concede 2 goals against City, that can happen at any point in the game. But the manner of the goals, how do you feel about that? I think especially the first goal, we sort of got pulled apart a little bit. In the second goal, you got players out of position for the first time in the game, really, and then Bernardo Silva's put one in the top corner. So you can't give these teams those opportunities, and I'm sure that's something that we'll learn from. And again, in the second half, we were much better. But it's just a shame that those 2 goals that we conceded weren't necessarily moments of brilliance. They were more lax defending, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the first goal was probably, a metaphor for how they did hurt us in wide areas for the first 20 minutes of the game. I felt both fullbacks had difficulties getting to grips with their wide players. I think Sterling's left McGinn on his backside, I think, hasn't he, for the opening goal. And I think it was Leon Bailey, was it? It was ball watching a little bit on the edge of the box. And I don't know, I've heard a few people saying, could Martinez have done better? I think we're judging Martinez on superhuman standards of what we've seen in his first season. So probably, Martinez with his cape of last season probably could have got there. But equally, that goal's not Martinez's fault. It should have been cut out, ahead of that. In terms of the second goal, I mean, that was the difference, wasn't it, between the 2 teams within the space of 30 seconds. We'll have a really bright, productive break, and Matty Cash probably needs to whip a ball in, front post or pick somebody out on the edge, puts a nothing ball to the back post. Most Premier League teams are probably going to head that clear for a throw-in or whatever. Not Man City. They managed to recycle the ball quickly. Bouncing ball that's still neck height. They get it under control, and within 5 seconds, they've just pulled us to bits. If it wasn't scored against Villa, you'd be looking at that. You'd be looking at that goal and you'd be drooling, wouldn't you? Because it was such a well manoeuvred and well finished, well orchestrated goal. But you just think, oh crap! And it comes like 3 minutes before half time. You think, that 6-1 that we had at Villa Park a couple of a season or 2 ago. I'll take 5-1 tonight. But that's it's little things like, it's like first touch, isn't it? Every pass that they wait is perfect, so their players don't need to break their stride. They cushion the ball so it's under control, and we're not quite there at the moment. And whether that comes with having a £1 billion squad, you need that to get there. But I think within the levels of a team that lost 5 on the spin until recent weeks, got a new manager, still adjusting to the way the new manager plays, only been in the Premier League for a couple of years, versus one of the most expensively assembled squads in the history of world football. Yeah. I think we gave them a hell of a game ultimately, and I didn't see that coming after 42 minutes.
Bang on. And Pat, you've already referenced the kind of standard that we were setting in the second half, and obviously started well. 47 minutes, only a few minutes into the second half. Corner, Douglas Luiz plays in, and Ollie Watkins, brilliant movement and an even better finish.
Yeah, I think everyone went a bit quiet on Austin McPhee. It was the name everyone wanted to talk about at the start of the season, and then we fell off, and everyone started hating the long throw-ins and whatnot. And then in 2 games, he's scored 2 goals, like Matt targets against Crystal Palace, and then this one here. This one was better worked. I think the Matt target wasn't even meant to be where he was for that for his goal against Palace. But yeah, this one was clearly one they've worked on the training ground. It was really impressive, to be honest. It was a great finish from Watkins, curling inside the post. It was lovely to see. But yeah, like Matt said, we haven't ashamed ourselves there. We haven't it's not something we can be proud of, and play that against City. They've been tearing teams to bits this season, and in the first 20 minutes, I did fear the worst, to be honest. But yeah. I'm pretty proud of how we played, to be honest. And I think there was a comment here. We'll beat Leicester if we play like that in the second half, and I think we will, to be honest. I think we'll see more of the ball. Leicester are low on confidence at the minute, and I think it's a real chance to push on. 4:30 on Sunday on TV for everyone to see.
It's a good point by Ian. I think if you want to play a Leicester City team at the moment, I think the whole season, to be fair, they've been a bit suspect. I think they've obviously got some decent results because it's Leicester City and a very good team. But if I think they're probably as weak as they've ever been really under Rodgers at the moment. And off the back of our results recently, performances too. Yeah, I think that's one that we can definitely look forward to. And I think Gerrard, he said straight after the game, didn't he? We need to come back to winning ways now. And I don't think that's the sort of mentality that we would have had before. Again, no disrespect to Dean Smith whatsoever, but that mentality of winning two, almost, or should have at least getting a point against City, really. And then thinking, okay, we need to get back in the saddle and we need to beat Leicester. It's not well and good enough just putting a good performance. We need to get results. It's a results business. So that's the mentality that I like from Gerrard. But Matt, what did you think of Ollie Watkins' performance overall? Because I thought he was brilliant. It's almost a selfless job, at least in the first half, when you're playing against those two City centre-halves, when you're not going to see any of the ball. But I thought he held it up really well with proper number 9's performance, and obviously getting the goal caps that performance. But I think in general, I thought he was brilliant.
I thought he was brilliant, to be honest. I think I got a little, probably maybe an old-fashioned route one. Fan of route one. I got really nervous when we persisted from playing out from the back. I think and Martinez seemed nervous as well about it. And they're on you, aren't they? They're on you in a flash. And I think it was a cheer from the whole end when Martinez went long with a goal kick. But I think you play to the conditions, you play to your strengths, and we're getting up the pitch a lot faster and keeping the ball in a higher area when we were doing that. And that was a credit to Ollie Watkins, because if that ball's going long, Buendía's not going to go and jump 4 foot off the ground and bring that ball off his chest. So Watkins was the focal point, and I think he had I wouldn't say he had the measure of Aki most of the night, but when that ball was going into him, he was making it stick and he was giving us that little bit of respite. And that's what frustrated me during the first half, that there were a couple of opportunities where I'm not digging them out, especially, but Buendía and Bailey were probably overplaying a little bit. We've got the ball, we've got the ball, we've got a chance to attack and to exploit them. Let's just keep the ball moving. And I think Watkins, I don't know, could Danny Ings have played that role last night? He could have played it. I'm not sure he'd have played it as effectively. No. But yeah, I think the thing is, how do we, if Watkins, I say, you know this better than me, Pat. If Watkins is kind of leading a press of sorts, who's going with him and how we're doing it? Because he's expending a lot of energy if he's the only one who's doing it. Yeah. And like John says, maybe we probably the game plan was to sit a little bit deeper and spring them that way. But I think my nephew I travelled to the game with last night. He said, if we've got a front line of 3 Ollie Watkins last night, we go, we probably go and win that game, because we've got that energy, we've got that ability to make the ball stick. And I thought, a long-winded answer, but I thought he played really well, and I thought the finish was sublime, and it wouldn't surprise me if Man City come in for Austin McPhee 100 million in January. Take your towels with you. But no, it was like you say. I don't want to be accepting of defeat. I don't want that to be the mentality, but it doesn't quite feel like a defeat. It feels like there was enough there for us to pin our hopes on going and beating Leicester on Sunday. 3 wins out of 4, potentially. The defeat only being a very narrow, kind of brave defeat to Man City.
Yeah, bang on. I think as well, Watkins, he's almost like a perfect Gerrard player. If Gerrard didn't know or understand what Watkins was about before he came into the job, which I'm sure he did, I'm sure he loves him to bits now. Kemar Roof, I think, when he had him at Rangers, had just come off working under Bielsa at Leeds, and obviously there's a high press there, and he's very much in that mould, isn't he? Of course, pressing the back line, and obviously got bundles of quality too, Ollie Watkins. But substitutes, Pat, Carney Chukwuemeka comes off the bench, as well as obviously Sanson and Ashley Young earlier in the game. But I think Chukwuemeka obviously had that chance to at least get a point out of it. What did you think of that? I think the whole end was waiting to rise when it did rise, and then it was such a shame when he didn't put it back in the when he didn't put it in the back of the net. Can't get the words out.
Yeah, I think he was a bit nervous when he came on, which is fully to be expected. An 18-year-old coming on against possibly one of the best team in the world, and it was incredibly hard for any of us to play football against them. It felt like they had an extra man at times. Like, as soon as you're on the ball, they were just closing you down instantly. Sometimes it was two of them, and they just hound you relentlessly. I couldn't believe what was happening at times. But yeah, he showed his quality in bits. Final third, a few nice touches, and the confidence to make that run in the box, get forward, believe in himself, and probably should have hit it first time. Let's be honest. I thought he was going to hit it first time, but he's against one of the best keepers in the world, and the best keepers in the world make saves, and they did. So one of those. There's a bit of the rumours circulating about him and his contract and whatnot, but he's got 18 months on his deal, and Gerrard's shown he's got that much faith in him that he'll play him against Man City in a fairly lengthy amount of time. So if he's going to do that, he'll probably be in line to start if he continues to impress. But yeah, I'd have loved it if that goal had gone in. It would have been absolutely mental.
Yeah, and it would have been a really good moment for him too. I think Gerrard he didn't put those rumours, should we say, to bed after the game, but he did mention that Villa don't see it as a problem that he hasn't signed that new deal yet, especially, say, he's 18 months left on his deal. He's getting minutes against Man City. Only his second appearance of the season, but if you're an 18-year-old, I don't think you can particularly complain too much at that, in my opinion.
I loved what he said, John. I loved what Gerrard said. I thought it was so pointed, the words that he said, saying, there's no problem. Anybody who thinks there is, I'd like to see. Almost kind of offering out the agent. I think is the way I read it. In other words, shut up. He's our player. We've got him tied down. This is a message to the agent. This is a message to Carney. This is a message to anybody who's in his ear.
Yeah,
I know what it takes to bring a good, strong midfield player through in the Premier League. I know the pressures that he brings. I know better than anybody when he'll be ready, when he's not. So why don't you just all shut up and go away? I've got this. That perhaps I'm wrong, but that's what I read into it. And I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah. What about the player in general as well, Max? As you said, I was going to ask you, Steven Gerrard working with Carney Chukwuemeka. I don't really know what more Chukwuemeka could want in a gaffer.
Well, yeah, and what more could he want in a football club? I know we kind of got a cloud and blue blinkers on, but the kid's a teenager. He's getting tastes of the Premier League in a very measured way. Villa are managing expectation for him. He's got, arguably the best Premier League midfielder since Premier League has been in existence to mentor him and guide him. I'm sure he probably will get one. I'm sure he'll want a pay rise as he goes along, and the more he gets those minutes in the Premier League, that strengthens his case for it. But he's got all the attributes. He clearly has. He's clearly he's clearly got the talent. He's clearly got the physique and the athleticism. I think now what will separate him is whether the mentality is right. And I think having Gerrard there to say, just block out the noises, just forget the noises, we'll guide you. I think he's just got to trust the people around him in terms of Villa's coaching staff, and just not try and kind of run before he can walk, really. Yeah.
And you've obviously got Michael Beale as well in the coaching staff and other members of staff in that setup that Gerrard's got that's really worked with plenty of youth players. Beale's worked with basically all of the youth players at Liverpool, Chelsea as well, all the England internationals that have made the grade from coming through academy systems. So that's really encouraging too. Almost to round off that conversation about Man City, then Pat, I think Gerrard said after the game that that was the acid test almost. We won 2 games on the bounce, Brighton and Palace, 2 impressive teams, but teams that we know that we can finish above this season because we've beaten them 2-0 and then 2-1 away at Selhurst Park as well against Palace. But he said that was a good acid test, and it was almost an education at times.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously a good barometer of where we are, but it is almost a bit of a reality check as well. Although we competed really well, we were a long way away from competing around that top 6 position, should we say, for another couple of years yet, maybe. But it's encouraging nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, Man City just played West Ham off the park, didn't they? Didn't they beat West Ham last week? West Ham are what? They're in amongst it, so it's completely something to be proud of. I always thought with Dean Smith, the issue with Villa was the results where we never really grind out draws, if you know what I mean. There's like games you might not be really in, or you'd be like games like yesterday, not getting a draw. But I was more hopeful yesterday that we were going to grab something than I probably would have been for Dean Smith. I don't know if that's just my like the presence bias or whatever. But it's one of those. If we can start grinding, like if we get a draw at Liverpool, get a result there, I'm confident going into that now. I think Liverpool play a different style. It's not as possession based, and it's probably going to be quite an exciting game, to be honest, a bit end to end. I think we'll be able to hurt them in the way we play, fast, flooding forward on the counter attack because they do the same. And but yeah, it's just one of those, isn't it? Not too sure.
Yeah. Matt, can I push you for a score prediction against Leicester? Leicester, and then we have Liverpool. But if we can just start with Leicester, I think it's a game that we can definitely get something from. I'd love to win it. It'll be a tough game because although Leicester had a bit of sticky form recently, we can't sort of move away from the fact that they've still got Jamie Vardy, still got Harvey Barnes, and I think Tielemans could be back from injury. I'm not too sure, but yeah, is there a score prediction?
I think we do one, aren't we? I know we've done okay there. Obviously won there last year, didn't we? I always lose track of seasons. I think it was last season with Ross Barkley scored, didn't they? But they've turned us over. They've hit 4 past us on a few occasions, and Vardy always scores against us. So we could do with keeping a clean sheet and shutting him out. I'm looking forward to the big Marco Brighton montage that the Villa official Twitter account put out ahead of the game to welcome back one of our former sons. I'm normally, as you know from knowing me, I'm normally kind of quite pessimistic because I don't like being too optimistic. You only end up in disappointment. But go on, let's go with it. I think we'll win 2-1. Fingers crossed.
Score prediction.
James Maddison's just come back into form, hasn't he? Just in time to play us as they usually do.
Yeah.
I think he scored a few goals. Scored yesterday, I think, against Southampton. Banging the assists in as well, so he's back to his best. But yeah, I'm always an optimist. Like I said on the last podcast, you'll do well to find me predicting a draw. But yeah, I think we're going to get a 2-0 win. It'll be the first game that you properly see like a Gerrard style of play.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that it's a really good opportunity, actually, isn't it? Because it'll be 2 teams going for goals, and it'll be a really open game. So yeah, my score prediction would be a 2-1. It could even be a 3-2, or I think there'll definitely be goals either way. Yeah, that wraps us up for our Manchester City review. Thanks for joining me today, Matt.
No worries. Nice to speak to you, boys.
Cheers.
And Pat.
Cheers. Thank you, mate.
And make sure you subscribe and watch our next video. Cheers, guys. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.